So I've been really thinking a lot about how I was going to introduce the channel and explain what it is that this channel is about. I've been delaying for a few weeks, maybe even months. But I've come to the point where you just have to get started, and you just have to explain and take a chance and see what happens. You might get something good, you might not, but you'll learn from your mistakes and you'll improve, and that's where I'm at. So I want to welcome you to this channel, and I want to start by speaking about a situation that I recently encountered at my healthcare provider. So back in June of this year, June of 2018, I woke up and realized that I had ringing in my ears, my left ear. And it was a little bit in my right ear too, but it was tinnitus. Clearly it was tinnitus, and it wasn't going away. It just kept ringing, and this one particular frequency just wouldn't stop. So I made a doctor's appointment because I'm like, oh man, freaking out, And I get to the doctor. Matter of fact, I call and make the appointment, and they say, hey, your regular doctor is out of town. Would you like to see Dr. So-and-so? She's, new to the team. I say, yeah, I want to take the appointment because my schedule is tight, like most of us, right? We're really busy. And, I didn't want to wait. I wanted to see if this was something I could resolve sooner rather than later and not have permanent damage. Let's get it done, right? I get to the doctor's appointment, and she was just a young girl, just out of school. We had never seen each other before. And for me, whenever I meet somebody new, I'm like, hey, how are you? Make quick small talk. I know how doctors' offices are nowadays. You can't really draw anything out. You got to get right to the point and get out, which is a big problem. But I asked, I'm asking questions like, hey, trying to make sure that she knows this is who her patient is, trying to build up some kind of rapport, because that is vital in healthcare, and she could care less. She was like, tinnitus, it's tinnitus and it'll go away. Might be months, might be years. Next, the way she went about it was so terse, so impersonal, so detached, so mechanical, that I was really dumbfounded. And I was like, wow, like that was deep. And on the way out, and I mean, she wasn't even really smiling. It was a lot of like, weak, I don't really want to know who you are. I just want to press on type of attitude. And I'm not a healthcare provider. I'm not a healthcare professional, but I have been around studying things related to health, trying to improve my health, trying to keep abreast of what's going on in the healthcare field and the opportunities and the changes and everything like that. And I've studied the sciences. I used to work as a community emergency response team member. So I'm kind of aware. I'm certified as a CNA. I'm aware of certain things in the healthcare field. I know how to do my research. I know how to find the right answers and not just get something off of the internet and go with it and run. I do some research. I look at articles. I look at proven documents. I speak to doctors. I speak to people. I ask what their situation was. I learn from people and see what they did to resolve their situation. So I went in there with all this information, really primed to like, okay, this is going to be a conversation. It's going to be a team effort. I was really wrong. It was not team oriented. She had a million things on her mind, maybe. But that worries me because as young as she is, she probably wasn't even 30, barely 30, if that. She was straight out of medical school, and this was her first job. And it made me think, wow, the healthcare field has had so much damage done to it. There's been so much bureaucracy with laws and changes and insurance companies and policies and paperwork and documentation that I'm not sure she knew what she was getting into. And so I don't hold it against her. Um, at some point, I have to believe that she went into that med school interview like, yeah, I want to take this on. I want to change the world. All I want to do is give back to the community and help people conquer their chronic health issues. I have to believe that because now she's a doctor. She went through everything, and it seemed to me that she was unprepared for both the interaction on a personal, people face to face level. She didn't have the social skills, and she seemed overwhelmed by all of the other things she had to do in the course of a day. I probably got to sit with her she probably sat with me for all of 6 minutes, maybe. I had to prompt her to answer questions that she should be um, have asked me as a patient. I even asked, so what do you think? I said, well, let me ask you this question, doc. And she was like, visibly annoyed, but she held back and she put on a smile like, yeah, sure, and I said, when when patients make their appointments 2, 3, 4, 5 days in advance, do you get notice of them? And if you do, if you're made aware of the appointments, how do you prepare in advance for a particular situation? Say, for instance, me calling a week in advance about a tinnitus issue. What do you do to prepare for that case? And she was like, well, sometimes she does what she can, and she was just very glance over, like, well, we do what we can to look over it and ahead of time, but if we're made aware of it. And it was just a dismissive answer, but I asked several questions and she was unprepared to answer any of it other than just give me the company overview, But anyway, so I want to talk about how this has affected me. I've determined that I need to rethink my relationship with my physician. I think that if I was to give her the benefit of the doubt, I have to assume that she wants to practice medicine passionately. At least I hope so. Any doctor that doesn't, or any medical professional that doesn't want to practice medicine passionately probably shouldn't be in the job. And so let's assume that everyone in the healthcare field got into the field, not because mommy and daddy said so, not because it's it was expected of them, or not because of the money or the prestige. They just want to actually just practice medicine. Let's assume that. It's probably not so cut and dry, but let's assume that. What is making young doctors, 29, 30 years old, so disenfranchised, so indifferent to their patients right off the bat? And I have to believe, from a patient perspective, that it has something to do with the relationship and the lack thereof between the patient and the provider, specifically with the insurance company in the middle. And I think I'm given this whole incident has built up to over the past couple of years, but most recently that incident has really prompted me to really take it into my own hands and do some research. So I've been exploring the direct primary care model, and I have some questions that I need answered that maybe the DPC community can help me with. But I like the idea, the research that I've done so far, I like the idea. I like where it's going. I like the thought of removing the insurance, paying directly, and being able to access the doctor and just call them up or just text them or just message them or just email them and be like, hey, doc, we need to chat. And they just come over, or you go to them and you sit down and you catch up, and it's not so press. It's not so boom, boom, boom. I got to see 30 people today. You know, I like the idea. I like the pricing strategy, but there are a lot of questions about, how does this, if I were to go ahead and say, all right, you know what, I opt out, I'm going to pay directly to my provider, where do I have that conversation about insurance related to emergencies? Or does this affect any other insurance, particularly life insurance, these things? Dental, eye care. How does that relate? How does that all fit in? How do I discuss, or who do I discuss with, the perfect package for my family to marry the DPC model with the other aspects of my healthcare team and strategy and finances and the long-term goals? As we all know, you don't want to be the first one to update your iPhone. That day that the update comes, probably best to wait. So in the same vein, I think it's important that we allow something to build momentum-wise with regards to the DPC model. But in order to gain traction, it needs visibility, it needs people to buy into it. But truthfully speaking, I don't want to be a guinea pig. The good news is it's 2018, and I think we're past that guinea pig stage. I seem to notice that it's speeding up, but I do have a lot of questions. Before I make that leap, I definitely want, the primary goal is my health. I want to put together my team. I want everybody accountable, and I want them to like me, and I want to like them. I don't want to feel like a cog, that was very unpleasant. And so I know I'm going to jump into it, but if anybody out there, a DPC provider, would be willing to get into touch with me and answer some questions, and I think it would be valuable to the community, it would be valuable to the public that may also have questions as well. So yeah, let me know. What are your thoughts on direct primary care? Has anybody had any experience with it? Have you had any bad experiences? Have you had any similar experiences to me with your traditional insurance care model, physician that's part of a large company or a large practice that they only joined because they couldn't incur the cost as an independent provider? Let me know what your thoughts are. Give me some feedback. Comment down below, subscribe, like, visit my website. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. I'm on all the social media, but to be honest, I really am a YouTube addict. Yes, it's true. Yeah, I cut the wires a long time ago, so YouTube is pretty much where I get everything, with some other stuff, but basically YouTube. Yeah, talk to me. Let me know.